It is no secret that California has a serious problem with homelessness, with tens of thousands of people out there lacking safe, stable, and adequate housing.
Across the city, the tents stretch everywhere. Scenes from what could be a disaster movie. Now, a seemingly permanent fixture on the streets of Los Angeles.
Any and everywhere you go, in and out of stores, homeless, homeless, homeless.
Believe it or not, the homeless problem in the city ranks as one of the top reasons that so many people and celebrities are leaving, along with other reasons like rising state taxes, a housing crisis, political problems, filth, and wildfires. For the longest time, it seemed like government officials weren't doing a whole lot to combat this very serious problem in the state, but fast forward to today and we're seeing billions of dollars thrown at fixing the homeless problem in California once and for all, with $500 million being spent by the state on acquiring apartments and condos for the homeless just in the past couple of weeks alone.
At 5 o'clock today, LA County recently purchased 10 motels and hotels through the program project called HomeKey.
If this looks like a motel, it's because it used to be one. This was a Motel 6 here in Baldwin Park. It is now going to be home for 71 people experiencing homelessness.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about the homeless problem in California as it stands today, and then we'll get into the details of Project HomeKey, which is the entity who's funneling all this money into jurisdictions within the state to help fund this problem. If you're new around here, my name is Scott. I'm a real estate developer out of Arizona, so here on my channel, we talk all things real estate, which is exactly why we're getting into this topic today. Hit the subscribe button if you're into real estate news like this. I'm putting new videos out every week. As of the last count, there were over 66,000 homeless people just in Los Angeles alone. According to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, these 2020 numbers represented a 12.7% rise from the same time last year and a 16.1% rise in numbers when looking just at the city of Los Angeles. One thing important to note here too is that that batch of data is kind of dated at this point. It's from January of 2020, which is before the pandemic. Remember, there were some positive ripple effects from the pandemic, like the eviction moratoriums and Project HomeKey, which we'll be talking about in a minute. According to the World Population Review, California's homeless population as a whole has risen to 151,278, which puts them in the top position for homeless population by far, with New York, Florida, Texas, and Washington being the runner-ups. Now that sounds like a lot, and trust me, it is. 151,000 people is way too many people living on the streets, but another factor to keep in mind is that California does have a population of around 40 million people as of the last report, which is significantly more than any other state in the United States. So naturally, they're going to have the largest count of people who are homeless, with it being such a large state. There are a lot of reasons of why somebody could face homelessness, with none of them being pleasant, but the most likely causes are related to stagnant wages and being unable to cover basic living expenses, unemployment, which becomes a vicious cycle once somebody becomes homeless, lack of affordable housing, since most major cities are considered unaffordable, lack of affordable healthcare, especially after an injury or an accident, poverty, which we pretty much already covered, mental health and addiction. This is a big one. They say around 30% of chronically homeless people have mental health conditions. Racial inequality is another one that impacts many minorities. Domestic violence, particularly with women, can lead to homelessness. Family conflict is another big one, because if you're struggling with any of this and you don't have family to go live with, that obviously causes a problem. And then systemic failures, which refers to basically what is the rest of society doing about this problem. I know that was a lot, but I felt like it was important to review the why behind this major problem that exists in LA and all over the world prior to getting into what the state of California is doing to try to help. Leaving politics out of this, my observation about why the homelessness problem in California has become so severe is just simply a combination of, first, there being such a high population in California to start with. Second, California has become incredibly expensive to live, with the average price home in Los Angeles being about $950,000 and the average price home in San Francisco being $1.2 million, just to give a couple of examples. And then last, let's face it, California has a very, very mild climate year-round, which isn't going to make it fun or enjoyable to live on the streets, but it does make it more tolerable. Of course, there are ways for some of the people who are homeless to take take control of their lives and seek employment and integrate themselves back into society. But a lot of responsibility also falls on the state to help build more housing, specifically more affordable housing, and ensure that there are adequate services out there for those people who have mental health or substance abuse issues. 4 out of 10 California voters last year expressed that they have personally experienced homelessness or they knew somebody who has. The problem seems to be worsening every year, and 94% of voters ranked homelessness as the most serious problem in LA, significantly more than affordability, traffic, climate change, air quality, or taxes. So with the numbers rising year over year and voters becoming increasingly frustrated, what has California done prior to Project HomeKey to combat this problem? Well, if you ask a California local, they'll probably say that the state hasn't done a whole lot, with tent encampments popping up across seemingly every local park and sidewalk, even including some of the most affluent areas like Beverly Hills and Brentwood. There was a huge push in the past couple of years to recall Governor Gavin Newsom, which was largely fueled by his inability to address this problem. Project HomeKey appears to be the most targeted effort that the state of California has ever made to address the homeless problem, and there are billions of dollars being thrown at this program to ensure it is a success. The whole point of the state program, Project HomeKey, is to provide money to local jurisdictions to acquire hotels and apartment buildings in the right locations and then repurpose those buildings as interim or permanent housing for the homeless. See, the housing shortage situation in California has been so bad for so long that at this point it's basically impossible to build enough new housing to catch up with the demand. Remember, in order to build new housing, you need land, labor, materials, and most importantly, time. Most of these big commercial projects take years to pull off. NPR reported that a 2016 study estimated California needed 3.5 million new housing units by 2025 to deal with this housing shortage, but housing construction has actually slowed since that report, only constructing about 100,000 homes per year, way less than the 180,000 homes per year that analysts say the state needs. From what I can tell, this Project HomeKey initiative is the most productive and promising campaign yet to address California's homelessness problem, and the funding shouldn't run out anytime soon because the $12 billion being invested into the homeless crisis in total in California is coming from a much larger bucket of $100 billion as a part of Governor Newsom's California comeback plan. You can see on this graph a batch of 8 hotels that the state was looking to acquire about a year and a half ago as a part of the plan. Most of them were Motel 6 properties sprinkled all over the city that were owned by the same group. And check out the purchase prices and rehab budgets on these. Just on these 8 properties alone, they were looking to spend about $70 million on the properties themselves and another nearly $5 million to renovate them. That just gives you a little bit of a glimpse as to how capital intensive this Project HomeKey project really is. So even though $12 billion sounds like a lot, that's going to dry up pretty quick whenever they're investing in properties of this caliber. On January 27th, the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of LA, that's a mouthful, voted to approve the latest batch of buildings to buy for Project HomeKey. They are buying 16 properties with 1,276 apartments in total. Each apartment costs an average of $400,000, which means that this investment alone amounts to over $500 million. Urbanized Los Angeles actually listed every one of the properties with photos that they're buying. And I'm not gonna lie, some of these properties are actually really nice and a handful of them are even brand new. Let's just scan through a few of these together just to give you guys an idea of the caliber of properties that are being bought as a part of this project. So here we've got 6521 Bryanhurst Avenue. This looks pretty standard from the street. It says it's a 5-story, 41-unit apartment complex, which it does not look that way from Google Street View, but maybe they plan to redevelop this one, I'm not sure. Here's 2812 West Temple Street. This one looks really nice. This is clearly going to be new construction. It says it's a 6-story, 42-unit apartment complex that's being built by this Schoen Tepler group. Here we've got one off of Van Nuys Boulevard. Apparently this one has been recently completed, even though it's definitely not looking completed in this photo. This one is a 36-unit apartment complex. Another nice looking one here off Alvarado Street. This is a 4-story, 27-unit apartment complex. Los Angeles is paying over $11 million to a developer on this one. Here's another new construction property off Alvarado Street. This one is a 6-story, 80-unit modular apartment complex. So this next one here off Pico Boulevard, I mean, I would totally live here. This is really cool architecture. This is a recently completed mixed-use complex. There's 79 apartments here. There's retail space. And LA is paying over $36 million for this complex. Anyways, you guys get the point. There are some really interesting properties on that list. Some of them are brand new construction with some actually pretty cool architecture. It's cool to see where all of this money is going. And our only hope could be that through this project, the homeless people who are taken off the street and put into these units will ultimately end up being able to find employment and then integrate themselves back into society once and for all. In total, the state of California received $2.75 billion to go towards Project HomeKey through 2024, and that money will be going to the buildings and developments that we just looked at. Plus, the states will supposedly be cleaning up encampments, cleaning up public spaces, and cleaning up the highways where a lot of homeless live. Time will tell if this massive $500 million investment will make a difference. I mean, $500 million is a lot of money, but 1,276 apartments can only go so far when there's 66,000 homeless people in LA alone. Thankfully, there's a lot more money to tap into though, so hopefully for all of them out there in California, this is just a sign of a lot more to come. If you enjoyed the video today, guys, if you could hit that thumbs up button down below, that really helps my channel out a lot. And don't forget to click subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, because I'm putting new videos out every week. But that's all I've got for you guys this time. So until next time, see ya.